Okay, hello. Um, okay, there might be some background noise. I'm at the airport again. Stopping in Switzerland where my mother was from. I'm going to Dubai again. Okay, here is the issue for today, and indeed the next few, uh, uh, the next group of videos I'll make, and there'll be a lot of them. I'm trying to make some kind of course that I've been asked to do three things. Go through advanced issues, not use any Excel, pisses the hell out of me, and make it interesting. That's really hard. Now, so I'm going to make some simple examples. First one we have is the effects of DSCR constraint and the debt gearing constraints. And I kind of have done that one, and we'll work through it. And then I'll make one for P50 versus P90 and P99. I'm going to make another one that just focuses on development fees, both in terms of gearing and DSCR, and as well gearing. How about DSCR? IRR, equity IRR, and then we'll make a development fee with, if we want to split up different investors. This thing we have a sculpted. What happens if we sculpt versus don't sculpt? What's the effect of all that? Then, you know, what happens if we can't sculpt and want to use our maintenance to do some synthetic sculpting? What are the effects of a mini perm structure with different refinancings? And each of these is going to be a simple spreadsheet. And I'm going to go through in these videos how to make these spreadsheets, LLCRs, some cash sweep structures, what's this yield co-business all about, equity bridge loans, and then I'll have some more spreadsheets on what happens with heat rates and all of that stuff with the allocation of risks, how to compute bid prices, what are the effects of working capital, some subtle effects, some merchant issues, nominal. I think I already have one on this one. Real LCOE spreadsheet. Some interest rate risk discussion, some currency discussion, and I forgot what that one was. All right. And then we'll have some issues associated with solar. What are some IRR problems, especially with, reconciling debt IRR and equity IRR, credit spreads with loss given default and probability of default. What happens? Let's just focus just on DSRA and see what happens. How important the DSRA is if we have different leverage, and with different leverage, and we'll have LC funded on IRRs. What effect that has the IRRs, and what's the effect of bond financing, other things with different spreadsheets. If we use an ECA and have upfront margins, how does that affect things? What's the maintenance account? So that's just an introduction. Sorry for the length of this introduction. Now so for each of these I'm going to kind of put a little example of a spreadsheet in a term sheet, if I can find one. And this is one where we have, here's the term sheet said we could get 80% debt or let's assume we have a 1.5 times debt service coverage ratio. So our debt service coverage is 80%, and the tenor here was 14 years, 16 years, I think. Okay, and they did have a tax depreciation, and let's make it 1.4. Okay, let's make it 1.3. So if you use this one, the DSCR causes the constraint, unless you, and that's wrong, just a minute. Shit. I stopped, and I was right. The DSCR in this case causes the constraint, and we can't reach anywhere near our debt to capital constraint. Now, if we reduce the cash flows, that even gets worse. If we had a really big, high project IRR, then we eventually get to the debt to capital constraint. And why did I not put 80%? Excuse me for doing that. Okay, because we have so the first issue is when you have a high project IRR, then we reach the debt constraint, and then the equity IRR is really high because the project IRR is so high. But let's put a more realistic project IRR in, and if we sculpt it, we get up to 72% debt, and we get an 8% return, 9.9% return versus an 8% because we're filling things in. Now, if we took away this, just a minute, 15 years, is this 15 years down here? This tax depreciation. Let's make the tax depreciation 30 years. And let's make the tax rate 40%. Okay, then we have just a standard one kind of thing. And here, because it doesn't follow the debt, it kind of goes in the opposite direction. So if we put in sculpting, we get 60% debt, 9% return. If we put in, if we don't have sculpting, we only get 49%. If we have a longer tenor, if we could possibly get a longer tenor, and we put sculpting in, we get just about to 80% debt. And if we have even lower thing, that if we push it higher, then we run into whatever. And now, so you can see how the sculpting and the sculpting and stop it here, gearing could cause the constraint. Now, if I'm going to make another, I suppose you can see how I do some of this crap, but you probably see this about a zillion times. So let's make this this indexing go from 0. Actually, let's go from 0 to 30%. And remember, of course, we've got to go to one sheet, not to the other sheet. By the way, those sheets have all the functions that I discussed in another video documented. So if we make, let's just make this average 15. So what we can do is take this one minus 15, and divided by 100. So we can put a positive or a negative number in there. Okay, and then copy. Oops, I meant to keep it on the same page. I'm used to going down. Okay, and let's put growth. Okay. Okay. Now if we look at the difference between sculpting and not sculpting, here the equity IRR, it's actually 10%, which is 10%, almost 2% difference. Now if we put a zero growth rate in here, this must be going down because the interest effects on the taxes or something. Then if we put sculpting versus non-sculpting, we got less. Now if we put a minus 1%, then the difference between sculpting and non-sculpting is very small. On the other hand, the more kind of funny the pattern is. In this case, oops, that's let's put 3%. Okay. Sculpting gives 16%. Non-sculpting gives 11%. You can start to get this. Now what I'm going to try to explain, it's easy to explain why it happens, but the subtle effects of kind of what happens. And I suppose if we put a grace period in, we can try it with sculpting, without sculpting. Oops, shit. Without sculpting, I just had a problem. I'm gonna turn it off. See, this scares the heck out of me. I have a little test here. Shit. Okay. I have to go back and check that. So, on this equal installment is still now. So now the equal installment's fine. I've got a little problem. Now finally what we can do is do a little goal seek. Let's say we have a target IRR of 10%. That means we're charging essentially a capacity charge or a price of 63. Now if we put it with sculpting and we want the same target, we can charge 56. So that's the kind of thing I'm trying to demonstrate with these focused examples. And I'm going to turn the thing off and turn the video off and fix our problem, and then I'll just finish it up. Okay, it actually was a problem not in function but in the spreadsheet, and what I had done is change the kind of way the grace period worked. I kept the tenor constant, just deferred it a little bit. So if we could, if we have a grace period of this, you know, our sculpting gives us equity IRR. Let's say this 10%, we switch it off to sculpting, we get down to 8%. This 57, if we press a goal seek, has to be 62. I don't know if that's significant or not, but we can start to really see these kind of effects. And right now, what kind of constraint are we? We're DSCR constraint, and this one we're still DSCR constraint. So if we change this, it doesn't affect anything. If we could get a reduced the thing here, and then we just hit the gearing constraint. So this gets us way up to 19% return, which means if we could get it all the way down to 52, if we could get, for some reason, really long grace period, we could get it all the way down. Oops, that increases it. This decreases it. If we reduce the depth period, it's increasing. I've got to think about why that happens. In this case, if we have a grace period and reduce the grace period, what's happening? I'm looking at the equity IRR, so the grace period helps us a lot more maybe. But this one, if we want, we'd have to charge 59. So that's the kind of thing we're going to do in a whole lot of other spreadsheets. Okay. And I'm going to stop this one now.